Well, we're back here, and we're working on the restoration of the antique woodworking vise, and we're back with a few tools that are necessary to the restoration of this vise. One of those tools is going to be a drill-mounted wire wheel. The other thing we're going to need is a bench grinder mounted wire wheel and a bench grinder mounted polishing wheel. Now these are all available at your local home store, whether it be a Lowe's or a Home Depot. They're just a few dollars a piece, and they're essential to getting all the rust and oxidation off of this this iron here. So let's mount this up on our drill and we'll get going. And that's pretty darn close. Set this aside. Now inside of that bench dog here, there's a spring that inserts here. Now apparently in the fire that this vise suffered through, this spring was heated to temperatures that really caused it to lose its spring. And so I'm going to try to reuse it, but I just don't think it's gonna be springy enough. We may need to replace it. But for now, I think what we'll do is we'll just put this in our bag of tricks here. Now I think what we're going to do is just give this thing a good oiling to loosen up all of the sediment that we just spun in circles with the wire wheel. Just going to use that same WD-40 solution. Now this part certainly is the dirty work. You will get very, very dirty doing this, as you can see, which I guess is fine. Because if we can turn this old burned, rusty piece of junk into a beautiful, functional vise again, well, I guess I'm good with that. This thing's really come a long way, and just a little bit of work that we've done. We've probably done less than 30 minutes of actual real work to this thing, and it's really coming along nicely. And again, this doesn't require any special tools at all. This is just regular old Joe and Sally tools that you have and most people have in their houses. It's really amazing to think of the advanced nature of the human body. As much as technology and science and manufacturing has advanced over the years and centuries, there is no more sophisticated machine than the human body. It's the ability to get in these cracks and crevices and negotiate the pressure that we exert to get certain tasks done. We'll exert more pressure in one area and less in another. Sanding is a great example. When you're sanding wood, you can get the big jobs done with the power equipment, but really if you want a nice finish, you need to be hand sanding. And that's really what this amounts to. That's part of the joy of doing a project like this, is that you get to take something that was completely junk and just using your own two hands and maybe a little bit of a power assistance, you can just restore it and make it functional and amazing again. You know, I've had such a problem with the disposable mentality that people have these days. I prefer to buy quality things whenever possible because number one, I don't like it when my equipment fails, which the cheap stuff so often does, but even more so when it does fail, I like to know that I'm dealing with such quality equipment that it can be repaired. And I just think that America has abandoned the repair mentality in favor of a disposable, replace it mentality. This is the brass threaded insert that accepts the thread assembly on the inside of the back jaw of the vise. And you know, it's not perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's not an exposed piece. But you can just see with a little bit of work that we've done, we've gotten that bronze to give us a glimmer. It's really neat. It's kind of cool. There's no more junk and residue in there that's locking up the assembly and the mechanism from advancing and retracting the vise. And I feel pretty good now that this thing is going to move very nicely and freely on the track. So, I need to make a decision whether or not I'm going to paint this thing, but I'm really inclined to leave it the way it is. Well, I'm back here and we're working on the antique woodworking vise restoration. When we left off last, I was trying to decide whether or not I wanted to paint the vise black or just to keep it the natural iron and cast iron. I decided not to paint it. Like I said in the last video, or in the last segment, I really don't think that we have much of a need to prevent rust because we are operating this vise inside, protected from the elements. So I think what we're going to do right now is we're going to head right into the reassembly. And we'll put this thing back together, we'll tighten it down, and we'll give it a final oiling, and we'll see what happens. Okay, well, we have all the pieces of the vise here on our little work table here. And we'll start off by setting all the pieces out as they should be. Now we need to move the track. Insert the track into this rear jaw. With no rust and oxidation on it, it should slide through relatively easily. And it certainly does. Things suddenly start getting easier here. Now here's the front jaw of the vise. Oops. There's the threaded rod for the track, and there's the jaw. And that's where our handle is going to go in right there. So now, as you'll notice on this vise here, this cylinder is threaded on one side, actually on about 3/4 of it, and then you turn it around and it's unthreaded. This is for the quick release mechanism, and we'll see how that operates afterwards. So we'll insert this thread receiver, half nut I guess you'd call it really. Now we get them by putting the unthreaded portion down. That will allow this to slide in theoretically somewhat easily. Again, everything's theoretical at this stage. Ah, look at that, it's going right in. In fact, now as we turn that, the vise actually begins to operate. So before we go much further with that, let's insert that cotter pin that we removed from the other side. I'm just going to tap that in. That's in. And now, let's split that so we don't lose our cotter pin. There we go. Technically the vise is not going to come apart. But let's go ahead and finish off the assembly by putting these two end cap nuts on the track, securing the track assembly to the front jaw thread assembly. Make this all one cohesive unit. And this collar here that goes right on top. Now we have this little set screw here, which we had when it was installed. It was stopping the vise from turning. I'm going to leave this out, and I'm going to keep it soaking in our little kit over there. But we do have the dog, which needs to be installed. And we still do need to rethread. Well, that actually springs fairly nicely. We still need to reslot this threaded set screw here. I'm just going to tack it in here for now. Just finger tighten it. Now, believe it or not, this vise is now fully functional. I turn it on its side for the easiest movement, and it spins freely. Can you imagine how easy this is going to be? Now, the cool thing with this quick release mechanism is that when this is situated in this orientation, the vise will go will slide freely on the track because it's unthreaded. Then as we turn it, we can lock it and continue to tighten the vise down. And of course, after we get this thing mounted on a bench, this thing is going to be just like brand new. Well, thanks a lot for joining me on this little project here. It was a fairly quick project. We didn't have a lot of time. We had no money invested in this except the $30 it cost to buy the vise on Craigslist. But I hope the one thing that you take away from this, if hopefully you've taken more than one thing away from this, just some ideas on how to reuse old things that otherwise would be considered garbage, that could be recycled for scrap metal. Now we can turn this into a usable tool. But the other thing I hope to take away from this is just the ability to use common tools that sit around your shop to really get things accomplished. Look around your house. Look at the things that are damaged around your house. You don't need a contractor to do every little thing. You don't need contractors to fix floorboards that may be cracked or to paint for you. And I'm not advocating not to do business with these people. I guess what I'm just saying is that there's so much gratification that can be obtained by fixing your own things. And it's something that I very much enjoy doing. And over the years, I've learned so much. I started off with my dad, who always brought me around and taught me how to use hand tools and power tools and taught me the basics of plumbing and electrical and carpentry and building and all of these things, working with my hands and electricity and motors and mechanics and science and physics. And these are all things that when you gather enough experience, pass it along. Find a youngster, find a little kid that is eager to learn, and teach him everything that you've picked up along the way. You'll be glad you did. Thanks. So I think I told you on a previous video that we had a plumbing problem above my shop which dumped thousands and thousands of gallons of water into my shop, destroying literally almost everything that the water touched. And unfortunately, the old WC Toles Model 65 woodworking vise was caught in the flood. So this poor thing has been through a fire and a flood. It's all rusted and bound up again. Guess I wish I had painted it at this point. But I'm going to have to give it another quick cleaning and it'll come back to life all over again. Well, thanks for joining me. And I'm sorry to have to report that. But if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, we'd love to have you subscribe to the channel. Thanks. We'll see you in the next video.